Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the bearings in your Stan's Neo DuraSync Freehub body. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. So we have the Freehub body. Now the first thing you need to do is remove the dirt shield out of the end. This is where the cassette lock ring will go. There's just a dirt shield in there, so you might need a little screwdriver to gently prise that up to remove it without damaging it. So it's out of shape, you want to keep it in shape so not to damage it, so it goes back in there afterwards and does its job. So next thing is, if you look inside, you've got a bearing there and a bearing at this end. Now in between there's a spacer in there, and that spacer moves left and right, so if you off centre it like that, as you can see. Now to do that you're better off using something like plastic or a handle like that, so as it doesn't damage that spacer, because it could be hard to move up down like that and side to side. If you use something pointed you can put a mark on it, and then when you slide this over the axle, when you're refitting it, it might not go back on so easy and it gets stuck on there because there's a little burr that you put on there using something metal. So you use something plastic or wooden to move that around, so you just off centre it like that. So we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to remove the bearing. We'll do the lock ring end first. So you've off centred the collar down inside there. So as what you do then is get a block of wood on a hard surface, or if you've got a decent bench, then put a block of wood on your bench and use that. I'm just showing you like this so you see you don't need any special tools to do this at all. So what you do is stand the Freehub body down on the lock ring end like that, and then with the collar off centered in the middle you'll be able to see the edge of the bearing, so the inner race of the bearing there when you're looking down through. So what you want to do is, with it off centered, then get yourself a punch, a small punch and a hammer, and then just rest it down inside, and it'll rest on that inner race down in the bottom like that. So you just give it a tap and then we'll move it across. Don't hit it out all in one place because you'll hit the bearing out crooked. So you just want to give it a tap and then move it round, find the edge again, give it a tap, move it round, and just repeat that until the bearing comes out with the collar. So there's a bearing and there's a collar that's in between, spacer, like that. So now we've got that end out, you've got the bearing down in the bottom to remove. You can see on this end where the pulls are. So to remove that, what we'll do is I'll get a socket. This happens to be a 26mm socket. Just stand that on a block of wood. I'll just put a cloth over it like that, so it's just indented like that inside. That'll just protect the end of the Freehub, and that just rests on there like that. And then you sit that on there, and then I'm using, this is a 12mm socket, deep drive socket. So you stand that down in there on the centre of the bearing, it's in the bottom, and then we hit that out. And it'll come out down into the socket, as you can see there. Started to remove it, so you just place that on there. Again, if you need to use an additional piece on the socket, an extension, small extension, then you can use that as well. So as you see, we got the first bearing out, that one that was in there, by putting in the socket, and as you can see there's the next one coming out. There's two in this end, and there's one that we already removed earlier. So once you remove that one, then you do the same again. Just put that in your socket again using your extension, and then carry on and knock that bearing out as well, like that. So there you have all three bearings and an empty Freehub body. So what you want to do now is go and clean up inside it, any old grease and dirt, go wipe that round where the bearings are going to sit. So when you're ready to go ahead and reinstall the bearings, what you want to do is in the bottom here, this is the end of the pulls where the two bearings go, just put a smear of grease around just where the bearings are going to sit in the recess area, in there, like that. Then place your Freehub on your block of wood again, and then with your new bearings, I'll put the numbers for the bearings in the description in case you need to purchase 3 before you go ahead and do this. So what you want to do is the bearings going down in there first. I'll just put a smear of grease around the outside of it, before we go ahead and put it in. Then what we do is sit that on there like that, then to start it, and just push it in by hand, just to seat it on there. And then to put it in, to get it started, we use a 19mm socket. Now never hit where the seal is on the bearing, because you'll damage it before you've even put it in. So just be careful of that. So just hold it over the bearing like that, only using a small hammer, and then we just gently tap that round. Remember, don't hit it all in one place, you'll hit it in crooked. Make sure that it's going in square, it's going in there nicely, and don't hit it in, like I said, don't hit it in an angle. Just in case, tapping it down like that and it'll start going in. As you can see, it's now flush. So you just carry on and knock this down in, because this one needs to go further down so it can accommodate room for second bearing on top of it. And once it starts to go in, you'll see the socket just follows it in like that. So we carry on and we'll knock that one down. So there's the first bearing installed in there. So what you want to do now, before you put the next one in, is just put another smear of grease round and over the face of that bearing that you've just put in, like that. And then get your next bearing, it's got to go in, and just put a smear of grease around the outside of it, like that. And then we just sit that on there again. And just gently push on it just to start it off. Then again, using your 19mm socket, just go ahead and start tapping that in. So we have those two bearings installed in there. So ready to go ahead and do the one on the other end. So what you want to do then is just put some grease down inside on the face of that bearing in there. Just put a liberal mount in there. Because what you do then, just put some round obviously where the bearing is going to sit in the top there. as well. If you put a good bit of grease down in the bottom there, because when you've got your spacer that goes in between the two, just put a little bit on the end of there as well, and then by doing that, that'll just help stick that in place down in there, and you can get it lined up then, and the grease will hold it in position like that so it won't fall over. Just get it lined up exactly with the bearing so as it's in the centre like that. Now once you've done that, get your bearing for the lock ring end. The side you're not going to see, it's inside the Freehub. We'll just put a bit of grease over the seal on that. Just helps keep the water out. And then just a light smear over the outside of it. So once you've done that, just lower it down in position. Again, starting it just by hand, just to seat it in there. Then using your socket again, 19mm again. Start tapping it in, making sure it's going in straight. So you have the bearing installed there, you can see. So check that it spins freely, which it should, it's new bearings. And then make sure that the collar in the middle is lined up. It has to be exactly lined up, so as when you go ahead push it back on your axle it goes on easily. And don't forget to put some grease down inside the centre there and over your axle before you slide it on, to help stop it getting stuck on there at a later date. And just put some grease on your pulls as well before you put it back on. And don't forget also to put your dust shield back over the end. Just put a smear of grease before you put it on. Just put some grease over the face of the bearing here as well. Just helps keep the water out before you put the cover back over the end. And that's the installation complete. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.